Hi friends. In today's episode, we will be covering about load and load templates in Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation. And if you're watching this WMS series from the beginning, I'm sure we have covered some of the major concepts in Dynamics 365 F&O. And in today's episode, we will be primarily focusing on loads in Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation. So like I said, we had gone through release to arrows, shipments, outbound waves, work. So all these concepts are interlinked to each other whenever you want to perform a shipment for outbounds or inbounds, and want to utilize the functionalities in W advanced warehouse management processes, right? So as far as loads are concerned, already in episode number 2, I think at a very high level we had gone through it, but in this episode we will deep dive into the same, right? So this is episode number 14 of our WMS series, and if you want to get regular updates, please make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow my profile in LinkedIn. And agenda for this particular session related to load is we will be focusing on what is the WMS process overall, whatever we have seen so far, and we'll primarily get into some of the concepts of loads, what are the various statuses of the load, and why a load is getting generated, and how load template governs the load generation process. So that's what we will cover today. And also in the part 2 we will be primarily touching upon how to create a load during the release to arrows, or how it can be created using the automatic creation process, and also how we can use load planning workbench. So that we will take it up in the part 2. So as of now, we covered the overall process flow of a sales order primarily, like how to create SSO is basically created and confirmed, and then we do using the reservation hierarchy and the item configuration, the inventory reservation happens, and after the inventory reservation, the person has to release the item to the warehouse so that the warehouse team can further do the picking and packing operations. So once the release to warehouse is done, then the shipment ID will be created. So these all the stuffs which we have seen so far, and also we saw how the wave process need to be configured using the wave templates, and what are all the various statuses applicable for the same. Then once the wave processing happens, based on the wave processing, the work will be created, the pick put operations, those work types will be created, and once those work types are completed, then actually the packing or containerization happens. But we didn't deep dive into the packing and containerization. Probably we'll take this up in episode number 16 or 17, right? But in today's episode, primarily, if the packing and containerizations are already done, how do we go about with loading the truck? Because the load is basically the physical container which is going to ship your goods out of your premises, or receive the goods into your premises. So that is what load is all about. And then finally the material is shipped and the sales order is closed. So this is basically forms a cycle of processes, right? So when we specifically here talk about load, so like I said earlier, loads are made up of one or more shipments, and each shipment is made up of one or more shipping lines or sales order lines. So we saw this particular diagram in our episode number 2, where we can have one sales order. Once it is released to warehouse, the picking and packing operations need to be performed, and or we can have multiple sales order lines using wave. We can release all those to the warehouse, and once it is released, the shipment IDs are getting created. Yeah, one single load can contain multiple shipment IDs, and one shipment ID can contain multiple sales orders. So this is what you need to keep in your mind. So I'll repeat the same here. One load can contain multiple shipment IDs, because shipment is which something with shipment ID is based on the delivery to the customers. If it is going to the same delivery address or the same customer, based on which logically it has been grouped, right? So one load can contain multiple shipment IDs, and one shipment can contain multiple sales order lines. So this is what you need to keep in mind. And the point here is loads can be created either by releasing to warehouse, or it can be created automatically when you are doing your sales order entries, right? We'll quickly jump into the system. So we were talking a lot about this. So in order to create a load, first of all, you need to navigate to warehouse management module loads, and we have all the forms related to loads based on the statuses, where you can view all the loads or only the active loads, open loads, waived loads, picking loads, loads ready to ship. So we will quickly see in this session what are all the various relationship between these statuses. And we have inbound load planning workbench and outbound load planning workbench. So we will take it up this too in the next session. So first of all, let me tell you, in order to create a load, you need to ensure that first of all, under setup, load, you need to create a load template, right? So this load template basically defines, um, probably I'll get into the load template later part of the session. Primarily what I want to show you is here, like I mentioned, loads can be created by using list to arrows or by using the automatical functionality. So that's what I want to show to you. Under warehouse management module, if you go to setup and warehouse management parameters, here there is a separate section for loads. So here we have the toggles which define whether you want to automatically create the load at the sales order entry, automatically create at the transfer order entry, automatically create at the purchase order entry, so automatically delete upon order deletion. So these are some of the setups which are available at the parameter level. So first of all, let me show you how this actually works. So for example, let me duplicate this tab. I'm going to quickly create a sales order. Um, so once the sales order is created and the order line is entered, any customer is fine. And this is the values which we were using from the beginning, 16 a hyphen WMS. So, so we have created a sales order, and in the sales order, what we are going to do is I'll just simply enter the item number, right? So once I enter the item number under the line details, if I go to load section, no load line has been created, load id is not created, right? So system at the parameter level, we can configure that whether you want to create a load at the time of order entry itself, so automatically create at the sales order entry. So if I enable this and let me click the save button, as of now I'm going to disable this delete upon order so that you can understand that particular functionality also. The sales order line, let me add the line, fun. So this was the item which we were using. So the moment when I hit the item and hit the save button, you can see that the load ID is already created. So this is something useful when in those cases, once the load ID is generated, then the transportation team must be aware that some sales order is getting registered in the system. So we need to plan for the truck accordingly or the load accordingly. So they will work based on the sales order entries. If you want to have that kind of system in your manufacturing or distribution place, just make sure that you need to enable this. And now the point is, like I said, now if I try to remove this item, system is not going to allow us. You can't delete a sales order line that is already associated with a load. You must manually delete load or enable automatically delete upon order delete. So that's why I want to show you this. So you need to enable this. If this is enabled, then you will be able to delete it, or else you need to delete the load lines and then only you will be able to delete any of the order lines. Let's say you have maybe 50 lines, you cannot delete the lines until unless you have enabled this at the parameter level, right? So now I think you should be able to delete it. Or should you want to delete the marked line? Yes, delete. So the load id is also deleted. So when you, if you want to create the load id at the stage of order entry level itself, then you need to make sure that you enable these parameters at the warehouse management parameter level. Automatically create sales order, transfer order, or purchase orders, whatever it may be. Or you can also enable this automatically create at the purchase order receiving, which is for inbound load planning, right? So this is something which I want to share with you. And so like I said, so automatically you can do this by enabling the toggles at the parameter level. We will also see how to create the loads when the time of release to arrows. So there are various statuses that are possible for the load. We'll go to one by one. First status possible is open. Load has been created, but no other warehousing process have been executed on the load. So let's go to load form. There are open loads. We have open loads. These are the loads which are created, but it does not further process of this have been performed. So it can be like whether the wave has been created or the work has been completed. Now operation has been performed over here. All these are open loads, right? And next one is posted. Load has been released to warehouse. Shipment and load lines are created. So in those cases, whether the load has been created and if it is released to warehouse, then the load status will be posted. So it will be under active loads. So you can see the active loads which are posted, right? So these are the loads which are actually released to warehouse and the shipment ID is created. And the next one is waived. Shipment tied to the load have been assigned to a wave and the wave was processed. So this basically is when you in the wave template session we talked about this, whether you want to create a wave or process a wave, you can configure it in the wave template. So if you have configured for automatic processing of wave, then the load will be waived also. Then the status of the load will be waived and the work will be created. So all the load lines for which it is waived, the work will be created. So appropriate work will be available in the for the waves which are for the loads which are actually waived, right? And in process means work tied to the load has started. So if using the mobile application, if we have started some of the processing the work, then the status will change to in process, which is similar to the work also the status will change to in process, and the load also it will change to in process, right? And the next status is loaded. Loaded primarily The status loaded will primarily get updated when the work has been completed for the entire quantity of the load lines. So let's say we have completed the pick and put operation for a particular line, then the status will be changed to waived to loaded, right? And uh, and uh, and that's how you will try to understand, okay, the item has been picked, packed, and it is loaded into the container. And finally, after once it is loaded, the final status is shipped. Once the shipment is confirmed, if you can see it over here, um, so if you are using the load form, then it is the option is outbound shipment. Or if you are using the shipments form, there is an option to confirm shipments. Under shipments there is option to confirm. So once the shipment is confirmed, then the status after loaded. So basically it means first the load is created. After it is created, then if it is posted means it is released to warehouse. Once it is released to warehouse, then you need to perform the work of pick and put. And once it is pick and put, it is loaded inside the container. And once it is loaded, we are confirming in the system that it is shipped to the respective customer, or in case of inbound it will be received, right? So these are the various statuses that are possible for the load. So having discussed about load, what is exactly load template? Load template basically contains the information about the equipment and about measures such as height, weight, and volume of the load. So it can be a container like this or a truck or whatever it may be. So it basically contains the information about the physical container which carries the goods or the products which you are dispatching to your customers. So in order to configure load template, all you need to do is navigate to this path under setup load template. Here you can give the naming convention as per your convenience, and make sure that you are providing the appropriate height, weight, and length, and maximum allowed volume, maximum allowed load weight. All this has to be intact with the equipment which you are actually using. So that's why I mentioned here, always mention the maximum dimension of the load. This is very, very important, because when the system is going to plan for the load, the system will take the maximum dimension into consideration along with your item dimensions. So considering the maximum dimension is very important. And also the important point which I want to share with you guys is load template can be assigned to specific item groups, also to make the load template default for specific item groups. So for example, if I want to make this item group 20-inch container for a specific item group, that is possible, because for each and every item I cannot configure it, right? So it can be configured at the item group level. So if you want to configure it at the item group level, then you need to go to setup, load, load template. Just now we saw item load mapping. So here you can configure it at the item group level. For each and every item group, you can decide what is the kind of load template which you want to use, whether you want, for case of audio items, whether you want to use a 20-inch container, or in case of core audio you want to use a 40-inch container, whatever it is. So you can decide upon this. Once if it is configured, then the moment you create a load, the appropriate load template will be used. So that's why it is very useful to configure the load template. So let me go back, uh, and let me quickly show you how this works in case of a sales order. um, Let me create a sales order quickly. So here let me create a new sales order and quickly show you how these different statuses of the load are working along with your respective processes. So let me quickly create a sales order 16a hyphen. So this is the warehouse which we created. Make it the click the OK button, and this is the item which we were using from the beginning of the our WMS series. So I don't need to explain you about the configurations and all. So I'm just quickly going to reserve the item, then I will confirm the sales order. So once the sales order is confirmed, then what happens is, yeah, once the sales order is confirmed, then I'm going to release this release it to warehouse. So it says one of the lines is already on the load, unable to release the warehouse. Okay, fine. So what happened here over here is, let me show you the load details. See, this load id has been created. So when we try to release the warehouse, the load id is already created, because like I told you, in the when we created this sales order, the parameter we have enabled it, the warehouse management parameter load lines, so automatically create at the sales order entry level itself. So this has been enabled, so that's why the order entry has been created, and you can see the load status is open and the work is not yet created, right? So now if we want to create the work, all we need to do is, let us go to um, warehouse management, loads, outbound load planning workbench, and then in the outbound load planning workbench, I'm going to shortlist based on the warehouse. Based on this is the warehouse, so you can do the filtration. Uh, so here we need to enter the load ID. Let me check the load ID which we actually entered in the system. I'll go back to accounts receivable, uh, sales orders. This is the sales order, right? So here let us check exactly the load ID which got generated. So this is the load ID, USM of 0017. Let me go back. So this is the load ID, right? So from this form also we will be able to perform or create the released warehouse. So this is the option over here. That's what I was trying to show you in the slide. So there are two ways: release to warehouse from the load planning workbench, or we can release it automatically, create the load lines automatically when the sales order is getting entered. So here, from here, I can click on release to warehouse. So this will run in a batch job, so that is fine. But from this page also, you can release the item, release the load to your warehouse, so that the work will be performed. So the load is not valid, please see release errors for details. Okay, so let us check the release errors for details. Okay, the load must be assigned to a load template. Fine. So let us assign this to a load template first, to a new load template. We'll take it a 20-inch container, then we'll click OK button. Operation is completed, right? So let us again try to do the release. So this time the load status is open. Okay, load template is not assigned actually. Load template, it has to be assigned at the item line level. um okay, work not created, shipping, this is fine. I think this time it should allow us to release the warehouse. Let's try again, because D365 is all about trying all the possible functionalities by trial, hit and trial method. So you should always do that. So now the operation is successfully completed. So that's how you consistently learn. So this is now load is posted, the status is posted. So which means that's what we have discussed over here. Posted load has been released to Varos. So we perform release to Varos and then the status has been changed to posted, right? So now if we get into our sales order, let me refresh. Let me go to Varos, and then if I click on shipment ID, so I can see the shipment is created. And what is the status of the load? Let's go to Varos load details. The status of the load is waived, right? So it is released to arrows and the wave is created automatically. Now if we click on work details, then the work should have generated, right? So the work is generated now. So the work is primarily generated and it is not yet completed, right? So now all we need to do is, let me go to the mobile device. This work need to be completed, because once the work is completed, then the status will be updated. So now that it is in the status wave, pick sales order, scan the license plate. Okay, so let me go to on hand, let me pick a license ID. So I'm just doing this manually since I want to show you guys how we are doing using a mobile device. Otherwise you can scan it in the, if you are inside the warehouse, you can scan it directly from using your mobile device. So I'm giving a serial number also, and a target license plate. I'm giving the target license plate as today's date, LP05062024-01. So a license plate ID will be created, and now it is asking for me for a scan location. So this location is basically the place where the material will be put, right? So if you remember in our previous episode regarding the location directive, we have not configured a location. So at the user discretion, they can decide which location they want to do it. So I just want to move it to a shipping location. So let's see. So now it is now asking for the confirmation to move the material to the shipping location. Let me confirm it. Great, the work is successfully completed, right? So now let us go back. Let me refresh this page. So the work is completely closed. So like I said over here in the status, once the work is closed, then the status has to be, for the load has to be changed to loaded, right? So let's go back and check it again. So warehouse load details, you can see here the load status is now loaded. So which means we have completed the pick operation, and then put is also completed, and the material is loaded inside the load template of 20-inch truck which we have actually selected. Now all I need to do is, I need to confirm the shipment. You can do it directly from this load form, or you can also do it from the shipment form. There are, in D365 you have multiple ways to navigate and complete the process. So if I go to shipment details, you can click on confirm shipment. So let me click on confirm shipment. The shipment for load has been confirmed. Great, right? So once it is confirmed, then like I said in the slide, once the shipment has been confirmed, the status will be changed to shipped, right? So let us go back. Sorry, let us go back to the load details. The status has been changed to shipped. So the shipment is successfully completed. And now that's how we actually, you can see we completed all this process. We created a load which was in open status, we posted it, we waived it, and then we completed the work using the mobile device. And then once the work is completed, then the status is updated to loaded. And once the material is loaded into your container, we can finally confirm the system that it can be shipped, right? So this is a very complex process. I really tried to explain it to you as easy as possible. I strongly recommend you to do this by passing this video wherever required. And of course, whatever the configurations we have done before, all are required in order to reach this stage. So I strongly recommend you to watch each and every video if you want to get deep understanding of WMS processes. So in this is basically that's what we've discussed: load creation automatically, how we created using the released varos and using the order line entries. That's also we saw. And in the next episode we will cover about the load planning workbench, how to utilize this load planning workbench, some of the basics of it, because already we saw about how we can do it using the load planning workbench, outbound load planning workbench. That's what we saw in this episode. In next episode also we will see in detail about the outbound load planning and the inbound load planning workbench, right? Because some of the functionalities we can deep dive into it, like sales lines for transfer lines. We will try to understand those in the next episode. And like I said, in the next episode, part 2, we will quickly cover about a couple of scenarios for the load template, which will be a short session. And after that we'll be getting into our episode number 16 regarding the packing station, and followed by containerization, which are also very important concepts in WMS. And if you want to get regular updates regarding the D365 and Microsoft Dynamics 365 or Copilot, please make sure that you follow my channel in YouTube or follow my profile in LinkedIn to get regular updates. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure that you like, share your comments in the chat box. Thank you.